Welcome to another episode of the Cozy Cottage Crochet Podcast. My name is Hannah, and this is a podcast all about crochet, a little bit of knitting, sometimes sewing, and generally living the yarniest life possible in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I live. It has been 2 weeks. It has been a jam-packed 2 weeks. I literally have so much to talk about that I wrote notes, and I never write notes, so I just go. But we have a lot to cover. I have so much to tell you. Let's try to make some sense out of this episode, okay? So first of all, if you're looking for me anywhere on the interweb, you can find me as the Cozy Cottage Crochet on Instagram, on Facebook, as the Cozy Cottage on Ravelry. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns related to this podcast specifically, please shoot me an email. That is absolutely the best way to get a hold of me. I have an email address just set up directly only for this podcast, and it is thecozycottagecrochet@gmail.com. We also have some make-alongs running. Oh gosh, we have 3 make-alongs running, which I will talk about them all in a second. I just want to say to the 2 people who I pulled your name for the winner of the Year of the Sock 3rd quarter prizes in the last episode, I have not put your packages in the mail. Actually, it's Wednesday right now, so by the time you see this on Saturday, your packages will be in the mail, I promise. It's just been crazy. But I already messaged you, I've got your address, and I will get those out in the mail to you, and hopefully they will arrive quickly. I don't know how long it takes to get from Florida to Portugal. Who knows? We do have a Ravelry group for this podcast, which is linked directly down below. That is where we host the giveaways. We have the make-alongs, and there are 3 of them. One of them you already heard about is the Year of the Sock 2019. Just an informal sock make-along for the entire year of 2019, and we are already in the 4th quarter, which I cannot believe. I can't believe it. So, I have a giveaway winner to announce. Oh my gosh, it's so good that I made notes. There was a giveaway in the last episode for this little Notions pouch that I picked up in Cozumel while we were on our cruise, as well as these 4 beautiful balls of yarn. This one is, they're all Lamia. This is Lamia Merino. It's 100% merino wool. And this one is 30% merino, 20% cashmere, and 50% silk. It's a heavier weight of yarn. So you could make 2 hats, a pair of mittens. You can make anything you want with this. So I have picked a winner for this giveaway using a random number generator, and the person who has won is post number 58, and your name is Blessed Angie, and you are Angela from Georgia. And your question was, do I prefer knit or crochet socks? Good question. I have made tons of knit socks, and I've made 1 pair of crochet socks. Now I have nothing against crochet socks personally. I don't love how they feel on my feet. I have very sensitive skin and I'm kind of a baby about it. So the knit socks, for some reason, the stitches don't bother me when I feel them under my feet, but the crochet stitches tend to bother me more, and I know there's ways around it. But for me personally, I prefer knit socks, but I know lots of people make crochet socks and totally love it. And I have 2 pattern recommendations if you are a person who would like to make crochet socks. First of all, look up Deanne from Addie Day Designs. She has fantastic crochet sock patterns, as well as Elizabeth from Crochet Cakes. She has fantastic sock patterns as well. And that is a wonderful place to get started with your crochet sock life. And you can totally enter your crochet socks into the Year of the Sock, and there will be prizes. Okay, let's see here. I actually have a finished object. I know. And I have a project that is not crochet or knitting, but is still yarn related, which I'm very excited to share. And I have a huge, ginormous life update. I can finally share with you the project that has been eating up all of my time that I've been working on for the past several months, and that is what's kind of gone on the entire year leading up to this point. I'm going to share that at the very end of the podcast. So if you're just here for the yarn content, we're going to do that first, and then later I will share with you what has been happening and what I am really, really excited about. So oh my gosh, I have something really, really special to do first before we jump into the finished object. I want to give a very special shout out to an 8-year-old who watches this podcast, and her name is Katie, I believe, and your mom is Amy, and Amy and I have corresponded a few times via email, and Katie, your mom told me that you watch this podcast, and that brings me so much joy. So I just wanted to say hi to you specifically. I hope you're having a great week. I hope that your school year is going well, and thank you for watching. I really appreciate you, and definitely the crafting bug is strong. Finished object. You might notice, am wearing it. This is the Nihilus cowl. It is a pattern of my own design. It is a one skein project, and it is finished because it's live on Ravelry. And I'll tell you about the reason I wanted to get it live on Ravelry in 1 second. So I'm very excited to have it done because I'm excited to have this bag back. It is my favorite bag of all time. It says Alpaca My Bag, and it has an alpaca butt on the back. It's what this project has been living in. So the yarn that I used for this project was one skein of Malabrigo in the colorway Lynx. This is their Machita base, which is 100% superwash single. Now I am holding this up and you can actually see it because I have a better camera now. It's orange with purple and really dark purple speckles. So this is a one skein project, and it is called the Nihilus Cowl for a couple of reasons. One, I like Darth Nihilus. He's from Star Wars. If you know who Darth Nihilus is, then you are a super nerd. It's a really deep dive. He's not in any of the movies. Let me just show you. I have Darth Nihilus tattooed on my leg, and this is gonna be weird to show you, but this is him right here. This is Darth Nihilus, and if I go up a little more, you can see that this is the eye of Sauron and Sauron's face. Sorry if that was weird for me sticking my entire leg into the camera. I will at some point do a better job of showing you my tattoo. Not now, because that was awkward enough already. So basically Darth Nihilus just has like this uncontrollable hunger. Like he gets wounded in a battle, and he just has to consume force to keep himself alive, and he just consumes and consumes, and that's all he does. And that's pretty much how I feel when I see an amazing single skein of fingering weight yarn that's hand dyed by somebody. I'm like, I have to have it. But then what do I do with it? I don't know. Nothing. It just sits in my stash forever. So I designed this project specifically as a one skein stash busting project. You can make it in any size you want. This is the way the pattern is written, is for this size, but you can make it kid size. You can make it even bigger and wider if you want. It's actually worked bottom up, and I made it kind of to look like knitting. So you have this texture, and then you have these little eyelet rows every so often. And so you work to a certain point, and then you quit increasing, and then you seam it up. And actually, mine is a little bit taller, but I had it folded under. I really love to fold this part under, and I wear this all the time. I like to fold it under just a little bit to the first eyelet row because it kind of creates like this shawl collar that just stays and doesn't go anywhere or do anything. And I have worn this. I've worn it so much, and I have avoided posting it on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere because it wasn't ready. The pattern wasn't ready. But I have it back from tech editing thanks to my lovely tester, Tamara, who is Crafty Escapism. She tech edited this pattern for me, and my lovely testers, who I gave them like a month to finish this, and people were done with it in a couple people were done with it in less than a week. Where do you have all this time? So I'm so grateful for that. And this pattern is live on Ravelry right now. Now, there's a discount code for 1 week. You can use the code Nihilus for $1 off for 1 week. That will be until Saturday, November 1st. November 2nd will be the date. I'll put it on the screen. I'll put the code on the screen. If you use that code, it will give you $1 off, which will reduce the price of this from $350 to $250 USD. If you have to pay VAT or any other taxes, I can't do anything about that. I'm very sorry, but just know that I'm not getting that money. So if you have to pay taxes or anything like that, it comes through to me in Ravelry, and then I have to pay it back immediately at the end of the month to make sure that the government gets their share. So the reason that I wanted to release this pattern, and I'm so thankful to Tamara for tech editing this so quickly for me, is because we are in the middle of a make-along called the VILLAINSMAL, the Villains Make-Along. You can knit, you can crochet, you can spin, you can weave, you can sew. I don't care what you do as long as there's some kind of fiber or fabric involved. Whips are allowed, double dipping is allowed, triple dipping is allowed. There are basically no rules except you have to relate it somehow to a villain. So we're not doing a Halloween specific make-along, we're doing a villain make-along. And if you can justify that whatever character the project is based on is a villain, go for it. Rule bending is encouraged. There will be prizes for the chatter thread and the finished objects thread. And of course, Instagram. If you were to make this pattern, you would automatically get an entry because it is based on, the pattern itself is based on a villain. Now, for anyone who is making something else, you can make literally anything. The yarn can be inspired by a villain. The pattern, the color could remind you of something of a TV show that makes you think of something. You can literally take a whip that is almost done and then like force it into the make along by saying, you know what, this color reminds me of Loki from the Avengers. And it can be any villain. It doesn't have to be a nerdy villain. That's just where my brain always goes. So I wanted to get this out before Halloween, which I am actually doing by a couple of days, so woo! And I wanted to get out in the middle of the Villains Make-Along, which is going until the end of November, because I don't know, I'm just so happy. I'm really, really, really happy with this design, and I'm not sure, like, it's so simple, and I frogged it several times, because I'm just really happy with how it turned out. So if you would like to make it, the link will be directly down below. And also we have the VANYACAL going on, which is a crochet along specifically for the last pattern I released, the Cowl. And ooh, I am so overwhelmed by how many people are making this pattern. I've never hosted a crochet along for any of my patterns before, and I was a little terrified to do it because, I mean, putting your patterns out there is one thing, but hosting a make along, you're like, oh gosh, is anyone even gonna make it? And some people have already finished their VANYACALs, which blows my mind. I'm like, how have you already finished? It took me forever to make mine. Of course, if you make a VANYACAL, you will automatically get an entry into the VILLAINSMAL as long as you post your photo in both threads, because Vanya Hargreaves is kind of a villain in the Umbrella Academy, which is what that pattern is based on. So we have the VANYACAL that is going on, and we have the VILLAINSMAL, and both of those will end in November. And then of course we have the Year of the Sock, which will end on December 31st. So yeah, I'm really, really excited. I'm gonna stop gushing about this pattern. We have so much to do. We're not gonna talk about the Nihilus cowl all night, but all I'm saying is go look on the pattern page itself, because some of my testers have made just the most. There is a purple one that it is so gorgeous to me, and there's a white one, and it's just beautiful. One person made this way bigger than was called for, and it's like this just flowy, like magical. I love it. I love it. So special thank you to all my testers and to everybody who has supported me. I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude for all of you, and you enable me to keep designing and keep putting content out, and that just really means the world to me. Now, I don't have any more designs in the pipeline. Actually, that's not true. I have a design that I am working on, but it's only like 5% done, and I have put a ban on myself. I cannot start anything new until I at least get a big project finished, because I feel like I haven't finished anything in literally ages, and it's overwhelming. So it'll be a while before another design comes out, but of course, as I am designing, you will see the progress that I make, and I will share it with you as always. Let's see here. I have a finished pair of socks, and these are the socks that I was complaining about last time, about how long they were taking, and I finally got them finished. And the yarn that I am using is Hobbii yarn. It is their Mayflower yarn in the colorway Lavender Fields. This is how much I had left of the 50 gram ball. And then I did just contrast heels. So the toes and cuffs are still this Lavender Fields yarn. This is a Knit Pick Stroll in the gray that I had lying around. And Hobbii sent me 6 balls of yarn to kind of review, test, make socks out of, see what I thought. And so this is the 3rd pair of socks that I have made with the Hobbii yarn. And I actually remembered to bring my sock blockers over here, so I didn't have to get up and go get them. So let me put these where you can see them. This is what it looks like if I just hold it up. Ridiculous. Sock blockers are the most amazing invention. Do I ever block my socks? No. But do I use these every time I need to show a pair of socks on the podcast? Absolutely. These are the socks. I really love them. I am normally not a huge fan of color pooling, I'll be honest, but I really like these, and I cannot figure out why. Like, of course it's hot pink here, which is what I love, but color pooling is not my thing, and I am obsessed with these. I haven't washed them. That's the only thing. The ends are all woven in, everything is done, the toes are sewn up, but I haven't washed them. And in fact, I did all the laundry last night, and did I think to put these socks in there? No. So I'm gonna have to wait to wear them. So this is the first sock that I finished. And then this is where I was last time you saw it 2 weeks ago. So I had just gotten past the heel. So I did the entire foot and the toe. Now these socks and all of the socks I've been making recently, I'm making them cuff down on my ChiaoGoo 9-inch 9-inch red lace circular needles. So try saying that 10 times fast. They're 2.25 millimeters. So what I do is I cast on 64 stitches. I use a long tail cast on. Then I do, let's see, I think I did 15 rows of 2x2 ribbing. Then I did 15 rows of just straight stockinette. Then I put in a Fish Lips Kiss heel. That is my favorite heel of all time. Special thanks to Alice who sent me the pattern last year, and I'm obsessed. I love the Fish Lips Kiss heel more than any other heel. And then I just work all the way down and do this, I actually did Mina's rounded toe, and I didn't bring the pattern over here, but she has Mina Phillips of the Knitting Expat has a free sock pattern. So she has a lot of patterns on Ravelry, and there's only one free sock pattern. So in that sock pattern, I think it's Mina's 2 at a time socks. Now I don't knit them 2 at a time, but she has a rounded toe sock pattern instead of a wedge toe. And the wedge toe is like too severe for me. I don't really like it. And I don't like how it feels on my toes either. So I tried her rounded toe and I really like it. And it's a free pattern, so you should totally go support her and use it. You can definitely see that the color pooling changes a little bit on the end. In fact, I'm gonna pull this off and flatten it out so you can see even better. Look at that. So the toe looks completely different from the rest of the sock. But they are finished. I am pretty sure this is my 14th pair for the year, 15th pair? I don't know how many pairs. At the end of the year, I'm gonna have to take a picture with all the socks that I have made. So I've definitely made 12, 13, 14. This might be my 16th pair of socks completed for the year. Now, before you get too excited about that, I will tell you, I mostly make shorty socks, so I don't know if it's fair to compare that to people who make longer socks, because of course that takes longer. But I'm really excited to have these finally off the needles because I have other socks to start. Of course, I have one more pair on the needles, which I'll show you in a second. I have to make, there's so much sock yarn that I just want to use, and I know I've made 15 pairs of socks, 16 pairs of socks this year, but I just want to make all the socks. And when am I going to wear them? I don't know, because it's Florida. Although it has cooled down a little bit. It's cooled down. So it was 67 degrees this morning. I mean, it got up to 80 at noon, but it was 67 degrees. I was still wearing flip-flops. Let's talk. Interjection before I move on to the next pair of socks. I have a very special giveaway. Now, I have a very lovely, dear friend named Claudia, who is Claudia of the Crochet Luna podcast. And she is the entire reason that I started podcasting. And she is one of the most fabulous people I have ever had the privilege of knowing. And I love her dearly. And she released her first ever crochet design. And it's called the Encanto wrap. And she released it a little while ago, maybe a month ago. So you guys probably, if you follow her at all, you have already seen it. It's just this beautiful wrap. And I'm going to insert a picture of it right here. It's absolutely gorgeous, and she so graciously offered to donate a copy as a giveaway. So all you have to do is go over to Ravelry and answer the prompt that I will post, and then I will draw a winner next time, and she will gift that to you on Ravelry. Now, if you don't have a Ravelry username, I don't know that you'll be able to post in the group, but if for some reason you can, and you don't have a Ravelry username and I pick you as the winner, that's totally fine. She can email you the pattern as well. So a special thank you to Claudia for donating just an amazing, gorgeous pattern, and huge congratulations, because designing is no joke, you guys. And I'm so proud of you, Claudia. It's gorgeous. And just the patterns, I mean, the finished objects that people have been making, I have been following the hashtag. It's so beautiful. So that is a very special giveaway. And I also want to give out some podcaster love before we jump into works in progress. So I have had almost zero time to watch podcasts in the last, what feels like forever, entire year. But specifically in the last month or two, I've had so little time. But recently I have been catching up on one of my favorite podcasts of all time. And it is Stitching Over the Days by Constance. Now, she has, I think, like almost 30 episodes, and I still have 1.5 episodes to go before I'm completely caught up. I was like 4 episodes behind. I'm at least that many behind on literally everyone except Claudia and Kalisha. And then Crochet Cakes and Mine and Muse. Those are the 4 podcasts that I am completely caught up on. But Constance makes I am telling you, if you don't watch her podcast, you have got to go watch her podcast. If you will be so inspired. She sews the most miraculous garments. She knits the most miraculous garments, and she crochets. And the stuff she crochets is like complicated. She makes tops by Marie Wallen, which are not easy to do. And every time I watch one of her episodes, I am like, my mind explodes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, those are the most amazing garments in the world. Like, her entire wardrobe is pretty much me made, and you definitely need to go watch her. So I'm gonna put a link down below. I'm so excited because I'm finally catching up and seeing everything that she's made, and I think you should too, because it's really, really cool. Let's talk about the second pair of socks on the needles. I have made significant progress. I just dropped it on the floor. Ta-da! Now, this yarn is Red Heart, Heart and Soul, which I had never used before and was a gift from a lovely viewer of this podcast named Kim. So I was so excited to be able to use this yarn for the first time. This blue yarn for the cuffs, heels, and toes, I have no idea what it is. I'm hoping it's superwash because these are definitely going in the washer and dryer. Because I cannot be bothered to hand wash socks. No way. And it's just I'm hoping 75-25. We'll see. But it's just like a random yarn that was also gifted to me by a lovely knitter friend with a capital K named Deb. Hi Deb, if you're watching. So I thought it would be perfect to go with this yarn. And I feel like the camera blows this out just a little bit. Like, it's almost showing up like a little grayer than it is in real life, because in real life it's a little more vibrant. Like, the blue stands out more in real life, where I feel like the muted colors are standing out a little bit more here. Yeah, it's a little more true to color in the ball. So last time you saw this, I think I was here or somewhere around here. I don't know if I actually moved the stitch marker or not. So I don't know, but I finished the entire foot and the toe. And again, I used Mina's rounded toe recipe from her free 2 at a time sock pattern. And I started the second one, and I'm this far. So let's see, how far do I have to go? Probably another 1.5 inches before I start the heel. I am trying desperately not to cast on any more socks until I finish this pair. Uh-oh. I just ripped the stitch marker out of the socks. Classy, classy. Trying to not to start any more socks until after this, but I do want to. The other pair of socks was on the needles for almost 2 months, which I know doesn't seem like very long if you are not a regular sock knitter, but for me that felt like ages. So I really want to focus and get this pair done before I start any new socks. And I have a couple gifts I need to make, a hat and a pair of socks for Christmas. So normally it's just very hard to get me to make you anything unless you're having a baby, but if I love you very especially, I will make you something if you're a family member. So just mess with my Nihilus cowl for a second. So I need to finish this pair of socks so I can get the gift socks on the needles. We'll see. We'll see. Let's see. Works in progress. That's what we're talking about. I have 1 knitted one and 2 crochet works in progress. We're gonna do the knitted one first because I'm literally so excited I can't stand it, because I've been complaining about this project and for weeks I have been complaining, and it is the Gramps cardigan by Tin Can Knits. It is a pattern that I am making for my husband, who has specifically requested a knit sweater, which, so excited. The yarn that I am using is Webb's Superwash, Valley Yarns Superwash DK. I have gray and I have navy. The gray will be for the trim and cuffs, etc. You guys, I split for the sleeves. How many times have you heard me complain about the yoke and how it had a billion stitches and it wasn't going very fast and I just couldn't handle it? I'm like over 100 stitches minus now because I finally split for the sleeves. And let me just tell you that I put it on a really long cable after one row after I split for the sleeves, and I had my husband try it on, and it fits. The armholes fit. They're not too tight, they're not too small, they're perfect. And I think with another inch, I would say, when it blocks out, it's gonna be absolutely perfect. And I literally almost cried when it fit, when I discovered that it fit. I literally almost like melted down because I was so relieved, because the thought, if it didn't fit, I was gonna rip it out and start over. The thought of having to rip this out and do the entire yoke again because it didn't fit filled me with so much sadness. There was no way. So let me see if I can show it to you. It's still on a very small needle, but it looks a little bit like a sweater. So here you can see the sleeve holes. I have done all of this since I separated for the sleeves. I'm so excited, and it's all scrunched up, but I prefer to have it on a smaller needle because I just find it easier to work with. These are, of course, this is just crochet cotton that I use to put all these stitches on hold. Let me show you how much I have accomplished. It is going so much faster now. This stitch marker was where I was last time you guys saw it, and it's all the way down here. That's like 2 inches. That's at least 2 inches, maybe 2.5. It could be, oh, so excited. The rows are so much shorter. They're a third shorter, which makes them just fly by. And I've actually been reaching for this again, whereas before it was like, oh my God, I have to knit a row on this or it's never gonna grow. Last night I knit 4 rows on it, no problem, and then just set it down and it was perfect. So I will really be giving some focus to this in the next few months because I would really love to give it to him. And he was very excited when it fit as well. He was like, it feels weird. You need to make it a little wider. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I have to pick up the stitches. I have to make the shawl collar. There's like a whole thing. This is not the completed sweater. All I'm doing is testing the armholes. Knitters don't know, right? They don't know. So thrilled. I literally can't stand it. This sleeves, I'm no longer working on the yoke. Don't talk to me about how many inches I have to knit before I'm done. Please don't. We'll get there. 2 more crochet projects. One of them is living in this beautiful pink happy bag. And you saw it last time and you hadn't seen it for the longest time before that. And I've made some progress. It's not finished. I was hoping it was finished, but I didn't end up having as much time as I thought I would. It is I can turn to the right page. It is from the Shawl Project Book 3 by Kat Golden and Joanne's Grace. And it is the Wisteria Trellis Shawl. Now, they make theirs using a gradient set, and I chose a solid color. So I'm on the main body of the shawl now, and what I'm using is this Knit Picks yarn. It is Knit Picks Gloss Fingering in the colorway Hawk, which is a 70% merino, 70% merino, 30% silk. And this is how much I have done. Oh man, I'm gonna drop it. It's not very much, but there's actually not very much left to do, honestly, because basically you're working short rows, and so every time your row gets longer and you go back and forth, but the actual shawl itself is not very shallow. So you can see that it used to be completely flat, but now it's pulling in and making a curve. So the whole thing is gonna be made a curve, and I can't get the whole thing in the frame. So I'm just gonna give you a close-up right here. Hopefully you can see that. I'm really, really excited. My best friend is getting married in December, which is so exciting, but her bachelorette kind of party girls weekend is Friday night and Saturday night this weekend. So I'm going to take this project with me. I don't know how much time I'll have to work on it, but I'm hoping some time because I would really, really love to get this project done before I start anything else. It would make me feel amazing to have something that's been in progress for over a year completed. The other project that I've been working on is, of course, my cardigan. Wow, that was like the loudest zipper ever. This is the Ariana cardigan by Vicky Chan. And I have finished the body. Now, it's kind of a story because I was determined. I was like, I am finishing the body. I am finishing this cardigan. We're going to be wearing it in the next episode. That's what I thought last time. So I finished the body, and then I was like, oh yeah, the collar will just be a trim. No, the collar is like 7 rows. Now, the 7 rows are the same as the rest of the pattern, so it's not going to be that difficult. But when I looked at it, I was like, ugh, and I got overwhelmed and I put it away. So the collar is not done, but hopefully I'll be able to get back to this as well. The yarn I'm using for this is Knit Picks Hawthorne Fingering. It is an 80% superwash Highland wool and 20% nylon. And this thing is a beast now. And I think it may still have 2 balls of yarn attached to it. Oh yes, it does. Okay, let's see how I can possibly show this to you without getting it tangled up. The body is finished. Finished. Ooh, this is where I was last time. So I actually crocheted all of that. And let me see if I can put it on for you so you can get a kind of an idea of how it will look. So right now this is unblocked. It goes to right below my butt, like right below. It's at least going to grow like 4 or 5 inches, because when it's blocked, this is what the lace pattern is gonna look like. Gorgeous. And then these 6 rows, it's gonna almost have like a little ruffle collar. I think it will have a little ruffle collar because these kind of perfectly lay right here. But when I add 6 rows, it's probably gonna be about to here. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to wear this. It's so, that was very awkward. I apologize. I thought I was just gonna be able to pull it over my head, but instead it got stuck and it kept going and going, and the body is much larger than I thought it was. So, sorry about that. This is the cardigan, and I still have this much left of the last skein of the lighter yarn, and I have this much left of the darker yarn. So I'm gonna try my best to do the entire collar in this dark yarn, because I think that would look really good. And then of course there's sleeve trim as well. So we'll see. I'm gonna try and do everything in the dark yarn, and it should give me just enough yarn to do that, but I don't know. I'm thrilled with it anyways. Oh, I messed up my cowl. It's fine. I messed up my cowl, I messed up my hair, messed up everything. Woosah. So that's the cardigan. I'm so thrilled with it. And that is another project that I have to finish that before I start anything new. That and the wisteria trellis shawl. That's my 2 goals, is to finish that before I am allowed to start any new whips. Because I just feel like I haven't completed anything, and it's weighing me down. It's weighing me down, you guys. I have a project though. I guess you could say I started a new project, but it didn't involve crochet or knitting, and it's already done. So I showed a giant box of yarn a few podcasts ago from a lovely viewer of this podcast named Nina, who was like, I have all this yarn, I'm going to send it to you and you can keep it or you can pass it along. So a good portion of it is going to be passed along as giveaways, and I did not know what to do. There were 5 skeins of this Fisherman's Wool by Lion Brand, which is 100% pure virgin wool in their colorway Nature's Brown. And I was like, I can't make a sweater out of this, or I would keep it because it's too itchy for me, and I have pretty sensitive skin. And a viewer of this podcast commented and was like, you should make dryer balls. Yes, I would have never thought of that. And that is totally what I did. So I'm here to tell you that you can get 9 dryer balls out of 5 skeins of Lion Brand wool, Fisherman's Wool. Is that what I said it was? Yes, Fisherman's Wool. Here's 4 of them. This is going to go badly. I just want you to know I'm probably going to drop all of these, and then the camera's going to shake violently, and then you're going to tell me I told you so. So here's all the balls. I made 9. So let me just show you one. This is what it looks like. Now this is shrunk probably at least 30%. I think you should probably expect like 30% shrinkage when you're doing any kind of felting project. So what I was doing, and actually I was really anxious one day, so I just started doing this. It was very like repetitive and rhythmic. It took me several days to get them all wound up because winding yarn takes forever. They were bigger than this, so I just wound them all into balls, and then I weaved the end through a couple of times so it wouldn't come out. And then what I did is I got a pair of pantyhose. I had to go buy a pair of pantyhose because I don't own pantyhose. I haven't worn pantyhose since my mom made me in like 9th grade. As soon as I was allowed to not wear them, I have sworn off of them forever. Now tights are another story. I will wear tights. Pantyhose, no. All of them, I'm sorry I'm doing this. All of them rolled right against me. So I have bought a pair of pantyhose because what you don't want is to just throw the ball that you've wound up into the washing machine with hot water, because it will come undone with the agitation. So you need something to hold it together. So I put them in the leg of a pantyhose and tied a knot in between each one, and then wash them on hot water. Now I happened to be washing our sheets at the same time, so it was perfect. The first time I didn't really think they were felted enough, so I sent them through another time on hot water and then I put them in the dryer. I would say it took a couple of dries to get them completely dry, and I think they're completely felted now. Like you can still vaguely see that there were individual strands like right here, but there is nothing coming off of this. The only thing I can't vouch for is whether or not they work as like to dry your laundry faster, because I've only used it on 2 loads of laundry and I was not paying attention. It does sound like a small earthquake is happening in the dryer. We used to use dryer sheets, but I would like to get away from that if possible, because I just too much waste, right? So these can be reused like to infinity, and you can put essential oils on them or something if you want your clothes to smell delicious. So I made a bunch of dryer balls and I'm so excited, and they're all pretty roughly the same size. So that was a pretty fun project. And if you have any fisherman's wool or any kind of 100% non-superwash wool lying around in your stash that you don't know what to do with, I highly recommend that you make dryer balls, because they're expensive if you buy them. They really are. That was the last project. I have a couple of things, incoming goodies to show you, and then we'll get to a life update. First, I just wanted to give a special shout out to a viewer of this podcast and a lovely person who has tested so many patterns for me. Her name is Wimberly, and she has just released a pattern on Ravelry called the Crochet Mini Bucket Bag. When I saw this, I thought it would be perfect for dice if you are a board game player or something like that. And she asked me to make this pattern and test it for her, and I haven't not been able to because of life. And because I have sworn off making anything new until a couple of these things are finished. I think this will be a really, really quick pattern to work up, but I just wanted to give a special shout out to this pattern and tell you guys, I'm gonna leave a link directly to it down below. Go make this pattern, it's free on Ravelry. And if you could use a tiny little bucket bag or a dice bag or a notions pouch that you make yourself. I know that my picture is not the best because it's black and white. I don't have a color printer, sorry. But go make it, because I think that would make her day, and it would make me really happy that you made it as well. And just go support her because it's a free pattern, and I think she did a wonderful job, and I am going to make it once some of this gets cleared out. I also got a little package in the mail that came all the way from England from a viewer named Lydia, who is the Wright yarn, which I will link to her shop down below as well. She, if you're in the UK, has hand-dyed yarn available, and she's just a wonderful person all around. We communicate frequently. So there were 2 balls of yarn in it called Yarn Fair Deluxe Chunky with Bamboo, which I've never seen this yarn before, but it is so soft. I think it would make the best chunky hat. That's probably what I'm going to save it for, is the best chunky hat. And it is, let's see, it says 80% anti-pill acrylic and 20% bamboo. And I love the color. She also sent so much tea and candy. Now, some of the candy we already have eaten. There is like a whole bunch of these little flavored coffees. There's like cinnamon hazelnut, nutty hazelnut, cookie dough. I'm interested to try that. Creamy caramel. And the only reason these are still here is because I forgot to take them to work where I would actually drink them. All kinds of different tea and an amazing smelling candle, as well as a Cadbury dark milk salted caramel bar. I don't know how this is still here because we ate all of the gummy bears out of here for sure. There's also a Fry's orange cream bar, which I threatened anyone if they ate, so that is why that is still here. And I'm sorry for all the rustling. I'm trying to get this out from the bottom. There is a bag of Wilco chocolate limes. Is this a thing that I did not know about? I have never seen or heard of these before, and I am obsessed with them. It's like a hard candy with chocolate on the outside and the inside, and a lime hard candy in the middle. So good. Also a little sign that said she believed she could, so she did. Which, I know that that's a pretty common quote, but it really means a lot to me because, especially what's been going on, which I'll tell you about, that really was special. So I'm going to hang that up somewhere where I can look at it very frequently. And there are little stitch markers. So 2 little triangles, and then this very sparkly hexie. which I love all 3 of them. And I can't wait to put them on a project. So thank you so much, Lydia. I got your package. Gosh, I can't remember what day I got your package, but I will say that the day it came in the mail was a pretty rough, there's been a lot of rough days in the last 2 weeks, but the one that it came in the mail was particularly rough, and it really put a big smile on my face and like encouraged me, especially the note that you wrote. And I just appreciate you so much, and it means a lot that you would think of me and send that to me, and I am going to try the tea as soon as I take it to work. I also got from my best friend's mom, which I'm like 99% sure she doesn't watch this podcast, but if you do, hi Teresa. She sent me a box of yarn. So she is a quilter and sews, oh my gosh, the most amazing things, but she used to be super into yarn. And so she kind of has a little bit of a yarn stash that she was like, can you use any of this? Now there was actually more yarn in here, but I have already gifted some to my sister-in-law who is learning how to crochet. So she took a few skeins and I told her she could have whatever she wanted. So there is some red heart. There's also 4 of these, whatever this is. Loops and Threads Jubilee, 50% acrylic, 50% wool in the colorway Purple Haze. There is some baby yarn. Oh God, I'm gonna drop it. There's a couple of these little Lion Brand, like color ones. There's a red one, a blue one, a green one, and then there's a Karen Cake. And there's 2 skeins of this Premier Deborah Norville Serenity Chunky in this amazing pink. I don't know what is gonna happen to this pink yarn, but I'm probably gonna have to keep it because I love hot pink so much. And there's some cotton for some dishcloths, and I love making dishcloths out of that. So that was very generous of you, Teresa, and I'm so happy. And it already has been getting a little bit of use. Put that down on the floor before it drops. It's already been getting a little bit of use, which I'm very excited about. And so if I have projects to make with it, then I will do that. And if, especially those particular 2 skeins of hot pink yarn, and if I don't have any projects to make with it, then it will be in the giveaway pile for all of you, because I love, one of the things that is so great about having this podcast channel, and I hoped that it would happen when I started, but I had no idea it was going to be like this, is that you all are so generous, and it allows me to give so much yarn and so many patterns and so many notions back to people who maybe they've never had a chance to have that yarn. It's a new yarn to them, and just bless someone and brighten someone's day, and that I love to be able to do that, and it makes me so happy. Let's see. Okay, so let's talk life really fast, and then I will tell you what I have been working on. So the last couple of weeks, we went to Halloween Horror Nights, which is so much fun. We actually had a friend come from Texas who is a friend that we went to college with, and we went to Halloween Horror Nights, and my husband and I cannot watch horror movies to save my life. They terrify me. However, Halloween Horror Nights for some reason doesn't bother me at all, and we try to go every year. I will say this is probably the last year because Universal took away the discount for Florida residents, which makes it like half off, and they took it away. Ugh, unacceptable. So our friend flew in from Texas the night before. We went on a Thursday, and then we were able to meet up with another friend who literally we haven't seen in like 5 years, and we had food. We went to, gosh, where did we go? Not Wet Willie's, Fat Tuesdays in Universal City Walk. So we went there. Then we went into the park, and we stayed awake until 3 a.m. I have not stayed awake until 3 a.m. literally in I can't remember the last time. I am not a person at 3 a.m. I don't know how, but we were at the park until 2 a.m. when they closed. And then we ate some Burger King because that was the only thing that was still open at 2 a.m. on City Walk on a Thursday. It wasn't even like a big day. I would think that things would be open later a little bit on a Friday or a Saturday, but not on a Thursday. So we stuffed our faces with Burger King, which may or may not have been a mistake because several people had stomach aches later. Not me, I was fine. But I took preemptive Pepto because my stomach complains about everything. So I figured if we were going to be out at a theme park, I should take some Pepto, and it saved my life. So we were up until 3 a.m. And then we came home the next day and basically slept for hours because, gosh, it was just, we were so tired, but it was worth it. It was like the perfect night to be with people that we haven't seen in so many years and to just still be friends and to still have that same connection. And it was beautiful. And I will tell you, my anxiety has been like through the roof the last couple of weeks. And I was so anxious on Thursday before we went to Halloween Horror Nights. I would say maybe like 2 times in my life, I felt like I was having a panic attack, and that was one of them. And I hesitate to call it a panic attack because I know some of you have had panic attacks and you get tunnel vision and you can't breathe, and it just is completely terrifying. And it wasn't quite that bad, which is why I hesitate to call it that, but it was at a point where I was having a little bit of a hard time breathing. Like it felt like something was sitting on my chest. Something really heavy was sitting right here and like choking me. And my heart was racing and I couldn't calm down, but I was still able to like talk and communicate and everything like that. And the friend that we met up with, who we hadn't seen in years and years, also deals with anxiety, and he was like having a hard time that day too. And he was like, "Oh, do you want a CBD gummy?" And I was like, I totally support any kind of medication that you use to manage your mental health. I don't personally have any because I've never been prescribed anything. So I didn't have anything to take. I was just trying to like calm down, do all the things I know, like crochet, do deep breathing, take a walk, I have a whole list of coping mechanisms for my anxiety that I was like cycling through, and none of them were working. So he gave me like this one little CBD gummy, and literally it like saved my life, because I would say like half an hour later, it's not like anything happened necessarily in my brain. It just took the edge off. Like I stopped obsessing a little bit. And I don't even think he knows how much he saved me that day, because that was rough. And he was just like, "Oh yeah, you need this? It's totally fine." And I was like, "It's totally fine." And then it was totally fine, and we had the best night. And I can't imagine what it would have been like trying to go through Halloween Horror Nights at that level of anxiety. Excuse me. I just like choked on nothing. Water break. So all I have to say is, if you have anxiety, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, just be so thankful that that's not something that you experience, because it's rough when it gets that bad. So I want to share something with you. It's very, very exciting and also very sad, and it's kind of a long story. And I just want to give a warning, because I know there are some children who watch this podcast, etc., that it's maybe you consider it more of an adult topic. And I'm probably going to say one bad word. Not the F word or anything like that, okay? But I just want to put that out there in case anyone has smaller children, and it's nothing terrible. It's just kind of personal and emotional, and I want to apologize in advance also for if I say something that doesn't make sense, or if I get a little rambly, or if I say something weird or that could be taken the wrong way. I'm not even sure how to put this whole story out there. So I'm going to do my best, and I'm probably going to get pretty emotional. So I'm just warning you, if that is not what you're here for. I'm already emotional just thinking about it. So some of you will know, if you've seen the last few episodes, that I've been working on a project that has been consuming my life for the last couple of months. And I was not able to talk about it. And so I wanted to be able to finally tell you what it is that I've been working on and why I couldn't talk about it. Okay, I'm nervous. So if you've been around a long time, you will know that my degree is in theology, which is like church essentially. And so I worked in insurance for a while, and then I got a job as a pastor at a church that I had been at for quite a few years. And so I was a full-time, like, paid staff pastor of the church. And also I have been teaching as a professor, an adjunct professor of religion, mostly online classes, since 2012. I've been teaching for the school that I graduated from with my theology degrees. So I usually teach 1 or 2 classes a semester, and I was a full-time pastor. And at the beginning of this year, the organization that I worked for, that I was a part of, kind of decided to put in writing or take a firmer stance against think about how I want to say this, a firmer stance on their position about the LGBT plus community. Now, I was not shocked by their stance. I knew that, and I simply didn't agree with their stance was that it was not acceptable to have that be your life. So it's not as though I didn't know that before. I definitely was more of a silent ally, which I understand really upsets people to think, because silence is kind of not complete consent. Silence is kind of consent to what's going on. I will say for me personally, it got to a point where I no longer could consent to that. But I do think there is a place for allies in unsafe spaces for other people, because certainly in my experience as a woman in a pastoral kind of male dominated role, there have been people, and I have been at institutions who completely were against women pastors, women preachers, anything like that. And there have been people teaching in those institutions who did not agree with the overarching theme of the institution, but they were diplomatic enough to keep their jobs and they were allies to me. So I do think there's value in having people in spaces that are not as welcoming to be that ally for the person who finds themselves there. And I've had many conversations over the years with people who hopefully found an ally in me. But essentially what happened is that we all kind of had to say what we believed on whether or not it was wrong. And I said, no, I don't think it's wrong. I was not the only person who mentioned that. Hence why me and another person left. And it was a extremely stressful time for me, because I knew that saying what I believed was going to cost me my job eventually, if not immediately. And it very nearly did cost it immediately. And in that time frame, me and another person, we were just like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm gonna have a job. So the other person said, what would it look like if we planted a church, if we started a church that was completely open and affirming of the LGBT plus community? And I love the idea, but my response was literally like, you're crazy. Like, you don't understand, like, you don't know what it means. I don't think I'm emotionally ready. Like, I don't want to be the head person of a church. I don't want to be the head pastor. I don't know if I can emotionally handle the pressures that come with that. Like, I had a laundry list of reasons, like, oh my gosh, like, this is such a responsibility and such a privilege, and it's horrifying. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. But we kept talking, and that idea just did not go away, and it did not go away, and it did not go away, and we ended up keeping our jobs. And that was not a hardship for me, because it was a place that I'd served for 8 years, and those people are like family to me. Oh, sorry. So we just kept thinking about it, and the idea didn't go away. And slowly I was like, okay, let's think about it till a certain date and pray about it and see what we should do. So we did that, and we were like, let's not say anything. I don't want to go and like submit my resignation or anything like that until I'm 100% sure that this is what needs to happen, because it's going to change my entire life. And slowly over that time period, I got more and more sure that this is what needed to happen. However, before we had the opportunity to have that conversation with our manager, our boss, somebody else spilled the beans. Somebody else who knew the situation. So it was essentially the worst way probably that it could have happened, was for someone who I truly value as a person and respect and love and like have worked for, and who has been a friend to me for years. For that person to find out from someone else that we were thinking about leaving was really difficult. And of course, that's not what I wanted to happen, but that's what happened. Which is why that week when I uploaded that tiny video, I said, okay, I'm not gonna record this week. I'm okay, but I can't record this week. And then of course I recorded again. And so it was like the worst way for him to find out what was happening. So we were kind of given the option to resign as opposed to being fired. So we did that. I certainly don't want to cause any problems for them. However, I will say it's difficult for me to accept, like I just have to accept that in this story for certain people, I'm the villain, like I'm the one who did something horribly wrong. And that's really difficult for me to accept because I love these people very much and I no longer get to see them. But I have to own that. Like I have to own that the way that it happened was not pleasant and certainly was not the way that I would have liked it to happen. Although who knows, I'm not sure it would have been a more positive outcome if it had happened any other way. So that's what happened when I resigned from my job. And so what I have been working on for the last several months is very intensely planning and working on starting a church. So we are planting a church in St. Petersburg, which is where I live in Florida. Me and one other person and a whole little team of people who have kind of gathered around us. We're looking at a launch in February. And the name is called Different Church. And I'll leave a link to the website down below if you'd like to check it out. What I want to make explicitly clear, which I have not been able to make clear up until this point, I don't think, is that number one, I will say the same thing that I've said to people of color in our community, any kind of marginalized person in our community, is that this is a safe space for you. I will never tolerate any kind of discrimination, any kind of hate speech, any kind of people voicing nasty opinions about your lives. And if it's between protecting someone who has not been protected historically, or more subscribers, or more patron viewers, or more, if it's between protecting and creating a safe space for people and more stuff, if it's between protecting people and anything else, I will pick you. So if you're a person of color, you've already heard me say this to you, hopefully, but if you are a member of the LGBT plus community, I have not specifically said this out loud because of what I knew it was going to cost. And I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for not saying it out loud previously. I hope that you've still felt that this was a safe space, but if not, I get it. But let me just be explicitly clear that I pick you. I affirm you. There's nothing wrong with you. You belong here and you have just as much right to take up just as much space as everyone else. And I don't say that lightly because I'll put it to you this way. I have lost 2 jobs because of sticking up because of believing something. I am not a member of the LGBT plus community. I'm straight and I'm married to a man. So literally my entire life has been turned upside down because of something I believe, not even because of who I am. So if this is even 1% of how difficult it is for people to come out, I can't imagine what it is like. So I don't comment and be like, oh, you did such a good thing. No, I did what any reasonable person should do, which is stand up for people and stand up for what you believe. And I'm sorry I didn't do that sooner. Maybe the process would have hurt a little less if I had been clear the entire time. Maybe not, I don't know. But just know that if you are a member of the LGBT community, you belong here. And I affirm your person, I affirm your worth. I love you. God loves you, whether or not you believe in that. And I am hopeful for the future, but it has been a completely crazy year, and that is the reason for all of my anxiety this year, is everything that's been going on with that entire situation. So let me also be clear that if you disagree with my position, that's completely fine. I'm not trying to convince anybody. However, I do not have the mental or emotional bandwidth to get into arguments with people about my beliefs. So if you disagree, please don't comment and say you disagree. When I say I moderate the comments, I really do. I read every single comment, and I make sure that there's nothing that could harm someone or harm the safe space that we have created. And I have literally, in the last 6 months, I think I've deleted 3 comments because all of you have created such a safe, welcoming community. But I am reiterating it because I know this is a hot button issue for some people. And if you want to message me privately, that's completely fine. But if you disagree, please don't comment down below. You don't know what that does to someone on the inside who is dealing with that in their life. And I don't personally have the emotional energy to get into an argument about it as either. I don't know. I feel like that's a weird place to end, but I made it through. I'm sorry if that was very disjointed and very rambly, and I certainly appreciate you if you've stuck through it, and if you are still here even after I've put that out. It's cost me a lot to get to this point, but I will say that it's worth it. It's worth it to me. It's worth it to have a space here where people can be who they actually are and be accepted and celebrated. And it's worth it for me to start a church, even though it's literally the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my life. And every day I'm like, oh my God, there's no way this is gonna work. This is crazy. But it's working. It's happening, despite my anxiety about it. And I think it needs to happen, and it's going to happen, and I'm really excited. So if you like it and you're on board, I'll leave a link directly to the website down below, and you can kind of see who we are and what we stand for, and I'm the head person. So I have been working full-time as a legal assistant since my previous job, and teaching as well, although that's going to be ending very, very shortly because I won't be doing that anymore, and working on this all the time. So that is why I have had almost zero time to crochet and knit. And hopefully once a couple of these whips are done, I will be able to get back to the craftiness. And I really want to sew some more. I'm like dying to get back to my sewing machine. I haven't used it since I got it serviced, and I have a skirt that's almost completely done, and it's just been sitting there for like months. And I have fabric for like several t-shirts still sitting there because I need a chunk of time to sew. It's not very portable, and I just haven't had any time. So I do want to give a special thank you to a couple of people who are just a few of the patrons who support this podcast. I want to thank you to Lori, Leonie, Louise, and Lydia specifically. And that's just a few of the people who support me on Patreon, and you really make this possible for me. You make it possible for this to be a channel without YouTube ads. You make it possible for me to keep designing and putting content out. And if you are a patron supporter, you will get a weekly love letter from me full of encouragement on every Sunday morning. And I feel if you like this video, despite its tone at the end, you can give it a thumbs up. That helps me to know that I'm putting out content that you like. And if you would like to be kept up to date on future videos as they come alive in this channel, you can hit the subscribe button down below. I will be back in 2 weeks. I am planning a bonus episode on how to write a crochet pattern. I would really have liked to have recorded it already, but it's been quite crazy the last couple of weeks. So I have not been able to do that yet, but I will, and I'm really excited to release that out to you because so many people have said they want to learn how to write a crochet pattern, and I am certainly not the person who knows everything, but I have released like 13 patterns on Ravelry. I literally can't believe that is the case. Maybe 14 now with this one, going live. So I think that's all. Until I see you again, make an effort to be kind to yourself and make an effort to be kind to someone else, because you never know what someone is going through. And happy crafting. I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.